Today, my talk will be about who's holding the remote to your life. Have you ever felt like your life changed channels without your permission? Well, this may seem weird, but ironically, moments in my life from where I was trying to keep the peace, it felt safer than using my voice. So I learned to adjust my own volume, shrinking, and saying yes when I really meant no. I did all this to just avoid confrontation. Just over time, it just seemed to get worse for me. Well, I began to do everything from a survival standpoint, making the very decisions on my daily life based on I have no clue. I don't even know why I did it. It was like this deep impulse within me. All these voices that I would hear. Too loud. Turn it down. You know you're not supposed to do that. Why are you like that? And it just seemed like every time I turn around, it was just going from channel to channel. I couldn't tune it out anymore. So I continued to silence myself. Until one day I looked up and I was like, wait a minute. Is this my life? What are you doing? So I took a moment. I sat down. I made a list of things that became priority for myself. What were the most important things for me? What really mattered? Being a mom of 3? Trying to figure out life after divorce. These were just parts of my everyday life. And I began to sit there and really contemplate. Fee, you're gonna be fine. Because life is gonna life, right? Can you actually control the things that go on in your life each day? No, we can't. Because as long as we live, there will be seasons and moments in our life each day that we can't control. But what we can do is control what we tune into. You have the power to control that yourselves. Did you all know that on an everyday basis, a lot of Americans each day, even globally, we consume 3 to 4 hours of time scrolling through our phones? Ironic. I bet we don't even think about it. Did you know that globally as a whole, that's about 16 hours a day? Actually, a week. According to Global News. It's crazy. And the funny thing about it, that's just social. I didn't include the TV. I didn't include streaming. I didn't include the gaming. We're just so consumed from all of these things. How often do we take the time to actually tune in to our own channels? What I'm saying is basically, it may seem a little far-fetched to you, but for me, I lived that life because I allowed people, things, jobs, different opinions. That's what it was like. They were controlling everything in my life. You might say, how is that related to the statistics I just mentioned? Well, your life is being affected each day that you pick up your phone, you scroll. When you can't sleep, you scroll. How many times have you picked that phone up and said, I can't sleep tonight, so let me just see what's going on Instagram? Well, that time adds up. So here's what I'm suggesting. We know we need socials. We may need them for our business. We may need them for news and getting information. But ultimately, we can control how much of it consumes us. What I've realized only came about because I took the time, the moment, to stop, listen to my inner self. I took a moment to write down, prioritizing what was important to me. The first is the realization of me looking at myself and knowing who I am. Were these voices accurate? Were they a reflection, a true reflection of who I am? The second thing, you need to create space for yourself. The space you create for yourself is done by determining what is important. You prioritizing your tasks for the day. Making a schedule, setting a timer. Prioritizing those tasks. Okay, I only need socials today for about an hour. Let me set that hour. And moving on to the next task. And lastly, bringing it back in each day. Reviewing what you've done for the whole day and seeing how much of it did you actually get accomplished. Because we always prep for the next day, for the next week, figuring our schedules out, what's priority. So these are just 3 tools that I use, and you can use them too. Now, getting back to who's holding the remote to your life. If you're listening to me today and wondering, this was kind of a puzzling question. Because I know you probably were wondering, well, where is she going with this? But being honest, can you see how the two correlate? The things in our life that we tell ourselves, those voices that we listen to each day, are the equivalent of all the voices on social, on TV, that we're tuning into and we're listening to. And we're allowing all of that to enter our ears. And if it gets in our ears, sometimes it can go to our mind and our hearts. And we start feeling ways that really isn't true about ourselves. So I want you guys to take this opportunity. Think about it. What channels have you been tuning into lately? Reassess for yourself and make a determination of how you want to move forward. Now, I guess I'll go ahead and share something else with you guys. Those 3 tools that I use actually came from what I call the worth activation method. What I did was just lengthen my tools because I actually have 5. But for this purpose, it served its purpose. But I want to take a moment to tell you about the worth activation method. The worth activation method, for me, became me seeing myself as myself first. Looking in the mirror to realize. And not letting all the things that have happened to me in my life truly affect my actions going forward for my life. It's me taking the moment to say, yeah, I did experience those things. I did experience that heartbreak. I did have to suffer just a little. And so is life. Life is like that. Many times over, we go through the same scenario, trying to figure out, why me? Why did this happen? What did I do wrong? And really, you did nothing wrong. Most times it's just life. But it's so challenging for us to find our worth back once we've been told and listened to all these different things from different voices and different opinions. What is really the root cause of that? I began to sit and question myself. And it took me back to where it all started with me. And it ended up me facing myself just as I was, which henceforth began the work activation method. First, seeing myself as God sees me. Secondly, honoring the fall, which is the parachute. Honoring the fall, knowing that sometimes life is just gonna life, right? So always carry that parachute and allow your faith to allow you to take some deep breaths, because one thing's for sure, you're gonna land. It's just that we always try to have the answers. We try to guide ourselves where we want to land, but life does not work like that. And the third thing I want to say, after you realize and you embrace the fall with the parachute, then comes the anchor. That anchor stabilizes you. It keeps you grounded, because then you know, okay, things are going to happen, but how can I stay grounded? And I stay grounded by just taking it day by day. Taking those tiny steps and knowing that you can get through that. No rush. It's just you. And after you've grounded, wow, what an amazing journey it begins to be. Because then at the end of that journey, we tend to see a lot of blooming going on. I want you to take a moment. Think of yourself as a garden. Think of your body as a garden. How do you maintain that garden? By watering it, by pruning, taking out the weeds. And by doing that, what happens over time? You begin to see the blooms. You begin to see the flowers. Think of yourself as that. We have to nurture ourselves, doing better with what we've been given. So, for me, this is what evolved the work activation method. And honestly, I thought the name was rather a little off, but it seemed to work. You understand what I'm saying. So, let's get back to who's holding the remote to your life. Now you understand, and you have a better analogy of where I'm coming from. Everything is connected in its own way. And everything I spoke about is connected in its own way. But at the end of that remote, are you going to take it back? And how are you going to take it back? Now you have a better idea of how to do that. I want you to leave here and think about who's holding the remote to your life. Because if you don't take it back, you may end up seeing a version of yourself on your own TV 10 years from now. Thank you.